I never thought I'd be afraid of my own daughter. That's what I whispered to myself the night she slammed the door so hard the framed wedding photo fell off the wall, glass shattering like my heart. I didn't move. I just stood there in the dim kitchen light, staring at the shards scattered across the linoleum, wondering how we'd gotten here. How I'd gotten here. At 68, I'd buried a husband, raised 2 kids, survived a layoff, and weathered more storms than I care to count. But nothing prepared me for the cold fury in my daughter's eyes when she told me, "You're impossible to live with." Her name is Emily. She's 42, sharp as a tack, and convinced she knows what's best for me. Maybe she does. But that doesn't mean I have to like it. It started 6 months ago after my fall. Just a stumble in the garden, nothing serious, I told the ER nurse. But the doctors said otherwise. Osteoporosis, they said. Balance issues. You shouldn't be living alone. And just like that, Emily swooped in like a rescue helicopter, all efficiency and concern, and announced she was moving back in temporarily to help me recover. I should have said no. Don't get me wrong, I love my daughter. She's brilliant, driven, the kind of woman who runs marathons before breakfast and negotiates 6-figure deals by lunch. But she's also impatient, controlling, and utterly convinced that her way is the only way. And now, suddenly, my house, my sanctuary, the place I've lived for 32 years, was no longer mine. She rearranged the kitchen for safety. Threw out my favorite chipped teacup because it's a hazard. Replaced my old armchair with some ergonomic monstrosity that looks like it belongs in a dentist's office. And worst of all, she started talking to me like I was a child. "Mom, you can't cook on the stove unsupervised. Mom, you need to take your pills now. Mom, why did you go to the store alone? What if you fell again?" Each sentence felt like another brick in the wall she was building between us. I tried to explain. I told her I wasn't helpless. That I'd managed just fine for decades. That I needed my independence, even if it came with a few risks. But she'd just sigh, give me that look, the one that said, "Oh, Mom, you just don't understand," and carry on as if I hadn't spoken. The breaking point came last Tuesday. I'd been saving up for months to buy a new hearing aid. Not the fancy digital kind Emily insisted on, but a simpler, analog model I could actually afford without dipping into my emergency fund. I'd done the research. I knew what I needed. So I went to the audiologist on my own. Yes, I took the bus and paid for it in cash. When I got home, Emily was waiting. "Where have you been?" she demanded, arms crossed. "I went to get my hearing aid," I said, holding up the small case like a trophy. "You what?" Her voice cracked like a whip. "Mom, we talked about this. You were supposed to wait until I could go with you. That place is a scam. They overcharge seniors." "It's not a scam," I said, my voice trembling. "I know what I'm doing." "No, you don't," she snapped. "You're being taken advantage of. Again. Just like with that contractor last year. That did it. I lost it. Not in a dramatic way, no yelling, no tears. Just a quiet, seething anger that scared even me. "Emily," I said, very calmly, "I am 68 years old. I raised you alone after your father died. I worked 2 jobs so you could go to college. I've made mistakes, yes, but I've also made decisions. Good ones. Smart ones. And I don't need you treating me like I'm senile just because I'm old." She stared at me stunned. Then her eyes narrowed. "You're being stubborn," she said. "This isn't about respect, it's about safety. About responsibility." Responsibility. I laughed, a dry, bitter sound. "You want to talk about responsibility? What about your responsibility to treat me like a human being? Not a project. Not a patient. Your mother." She turned and walked out. Not just out of the room, out of the house. Didn't come back until midnight. And when she did, she didn't say a word. That's when I whispered it to myself. I never thought I'd be afraid of my own daughter. The truth is, I see myself in her. Not the controlling part, though God knows I had my moments when she was a teenager, but the fear. The desperate need to protect someone you love, even if it means smothering them. When her father died, I clung to her so tightly I almost crushed her spirit. I monitored her every move, questioned her friends, demanded report cards like they were sacred texts. I thought I was keeping her safe. Really, I was just terrified of losing her too. Maybe that's what's happening now. Maybe Emily's just as scared as I was scared of watching me fade, of making the wrong call, of failing me the way she thinks I might fail myself. But fear isn't love. And control isn't care. Last weekend, I called my son, Daniel. He lives in Portland, teaches high school history, and has always been the peacemaker. He listened quietly as I poured out everything, the fights, the resentment, the loneliness that somehow felt worse with someone in the house than when I was alone. "You know she loves you, right?" he said finally. "I know," I replied. "But love isn't enough if it doesn't come with respect." He was silent for a long moment. Then, "Have you told her that?" I hadn't. So the next morning, I made breakfast, scrambled eggs, whole wheat toast, fresh orange juice, just like she likes it, and set the table for two. When she came downstairs, still in her pajamas, eyes puffy from lack of sleep, she hesitated in the doorway. "I made breakfast," I said simply. She nodded, sat down. We ate in silence for a few minutes. Then I took a deep breath. "Emily," I began, "I'm sorry I yelled." She looked up surprised. "And I'm sorry I bought the hearing aid without talking to you first. That wasn't fair." She opened her mouth to speak, but I held up a hand. "But I need you to understand something. I may be older. I may need help sometimes. But I'm still me. I still have opinions. I still make choices, good ones, bad ones, my own. And I need you to trust that." She put her fork down. Her eyes filled with tears. "Mom, I'm scared," she whispered. "I see what happened to Grandma, how she just disappeared inside herself. I don't want that for you. I don't want to lose you before you're gone." I reached across the table and took her hand. It was warm, familiar. "You won't lose me," I said. "But you will if you keep treating me like a problem to be solved instead of a person to be loved." She squeezed my hand. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted. "Neither do I said. "But we'll figure it out. Together." It's been 3 weeks since that breakfast. Things aren't perfect. She still fusses when I use the stove. I still bristle when she rearranges my medicine cabinet. But we're trying. She's started asking instead of ordering, "Would you like me to go with you to the doctor?" instead of, "You're going to the doctor, and I'm coming." And I've started saying yes more often, even when I don't really need her, because I see now that it's not about control. It's about connection. Last night, we sat on the porch watching the fireflies. No agenda. No arguments. Just silence and the soft hum of summer. She leaned her head on my shoulder, just like she used to when she was little. "I miss Dad sometimes," she said out of nowhere. "Me too," I replied. "He'd know what to do," she murmured. "No," I said gently. "He'd be just as lost as we are. But he'd love us anyway." She smiled. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel afraid. Because here's what I've learned. Family isn't about getting it right. It's about showing up even when you're angry, even when you're scared, even when you don't know how. It's about choosing love over pride, patience over perfection, and presence over control. And sometimes, it's about picking up the pieces of a shattered photo frame, gluing it back together as best you can, and hanging it back on the wall, not because it's flawless, but because it's yours. So if you're reading this and you're caught in your own storm with your kids or your parents, hear this. It's never too late to say you're sorry. It's never too late to ask for help. And it's never too late to choose each other again and again and again. Because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to be seen, to be heard, to be loved, not despite our flaws, but with them. And that's worth every awkward conversation, Every slammed door, every tear-streaked breakfast. It's worth it all.